Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking about The Fall Guy in full spoilers. We're staying on the David Leitch train after our experience with Bullet Train last week. So we're going to be talking about The Fall Guy, which is his most recently released movie. We're also having On the Horizon segment. We're going to talk about what's coming up this next week. And we've got quite a few news stories and a few trailers to go over in our news segment on Beat. But let's get started with On the Horizon.
On the horizon.
On the Horizon, as we always mention, is where we talk about what's coming up in the next week or so. And we're going to start things off with Heads of State. This is that Amazon Prime original movie with Idris Elba and John Cena, where they play the Prime Minister of the UK and the President of the United States, respectively. Yeah, it's like an action movie with the two of them.
Yep, I think we covered this before, but yeah, it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, we talked about the first trailer for it, I think. Then also on the same day, on Wednesday, July 2nd, but for Netflix, we have The Old Guard 2, which I don't think you've seen The Old Guard, have you? That's the one with Charlize Theron, and it's kind of got like a little bit of a Highlander vibe. It's about a bunch of immortals.
Haven't seen it. Not ringing any bells.
It's a decent action movie that's just got that low-scale kind of action movie thing. Like I said, like Highlander vibes. But that's also coming on Wednesday, July 2nd, but to Netflix. Jurassic Park Rebirth is coming on Wednesday, July 2nd to theaters, because it's July 4th weekend, so they always do the movie releases are always on Wednesday instead of Friday.
Oh, yeah. Take advantage of the 3-day weekend.
Yeah. So, Jurassic Park Rebirth, I've been hearing good things about Jurassic Park Rebirth after hearing nothing but bad things about the last one.
Well, that's good at least.
Yeah. Dan to Dan, the second season of the anime, is coming on Thursday, July 3rd to Crunchyroll, Hulu, and Netflix. I'm just taking the moment here. I'm singling out Dan to Dan. Basically, 4 times a year, we get like the new anime season. And I just singled out Dan to Dan as kind of like the really big one that's returning. There's a lot of other big anime returning too this time. Kaiju number 8 is also returning. And there's some new ones as well, but this is just me letting people know the new anime season is coming this next week. So if you're into anime, go through the list and start adding stuff to your watch list on your various apps and services. And then lastly, The Sandman returns for its second and final season on Thursday, July 3rd on Netflix. We talked about the trailer for this. Was this 2 weeks ago, I believe?
Yes.
So that's coming. And then there's a special coming too, like a last episode that focuses on death that we mentioned in a news story previously that I believe is not launching with the rest of the show. So that's not coming on July 3rd. So there's going to be one more Sandman thing coming a little bit later, I guess. The same way they did the last bonus episode for the first season. But that is it for our On the Horizon segment. And now we're moving on to On Beat. On Beat. On Beat is our news segment where we talk about news and trailers. And we're going to start things off with a really big story that just broke today, which is that Denis Villeneuve, who directed Dune and the Sicario movies, is Amazon's first 007 director. He's going to be directing James Bond. So, yeah, that's kind of crazy coming off of something as huge as Dune. I mean, Dune is like Star Wars scale, and then he's going to be going to Bond, which is a big franchise.
You could pretty much get almost any director for James Bond.
Yeah.
People like versus Christopher Nolan have expressed interest in doing a James Bond film. And I think Amazon, they want to make a splash with this. Obviously, they spent a lot of money acquiring MGM, acquiring this property. I think they want to make a big splash by getting a very big name, very respected director on this film.
Well, they've done it.
It just makes sense to me that this happened. Yeah, they've done it for sure.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think discounting like older known directors directors, like directors who have been in the game for a while, like Christopher Nolan or like Tarantino or something like that. Of like the younger guard of directors, which they're not that young, but younger guard of directors, the two biggest names right now are Denis Villeneuve and Robert Eggers.
Yeah. There's only like a handful of directors who wouldn't do it. Tarantino, just because
I mentioned one, Eggers.
And Eggers, Tarantino, also because he has this thing about
his obsession with 10 movies, 10 and done.
Yeah, 10 and done. And he only has like one more movie left. He's directed 9, so he's got one more movie left. He doesn't want that to be a James Bond movie.
Yeah, he flirted with the idea of doing like a Star Trek movie and stuff like that, but he's straight up said that's not going to happen for the 10th. Even though he's uncertain about what his 10th is, I think he's made it specific that he's going to be doing something more personal, and he doesn't want to do like an established franchise for his last film.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think the whole thing's silly that he's cutting himself off at 10, but...
Yeah, I think it's silly too, but it's what he wants to do, so yeah, fair enough. Like I said, though, it's a short list. And also, like, I could see Denis Villeneuve wanting to do something a bit more lightweight. Yeah. He's done like 2 Dune movies, and those are big, epic space opera films.
I mean, Bond movies aren't like personal journeys of self-growth movies or anything.
No, like
Dune is massive, you know?
Dune is like massive. It's a beast. They're very dense films. James Bond, on the other hand, like, they're very simple plots. There's not like a lot of character depth in those.
Mostly self-contained within a single...
Yeah, it's a lot simpler, a lot breezier. I could see him wanting to do this just like as a breather coming off of like those 2 big movies.
Also, if your only experience with Villeneuve is like Dune, then you have to realize that he's done other movies before Dune. Like he did the Sicario movies and...
Yeah, he did the Blade Runner sequel.
But he did like... Sicario is the one that's more like directly comparable to like a Bond movie, you know?
Right.
Where it's kind of more like real world or real world-ish. I guess James Bond is super realistic, but you know what I mean. It's more realistic than Blade Runner or Dune.
But I mean, we don't have any details. You can imagine probably what Denis Villeneuve, I'm messing that up, I know. Villeneuve, James Bond is going to be like, but I mean, we don't have any details. We don't have a cast for this.
I think we can predict the cast pretty easily. It's going to be Timothée Chalamet as James Bond.
Obviously.
Yes.
Who else? He'd be perfect for it.
Josh Brolin is Q.
Yeah.
And he wasn't in Dune.
Gosling.
He wasn't in Dune, but I'd say because of Sicario, Benicio del Toro would make an excellent Bond villain.
Yes.
So that's my prediction. I'm kidding. Like, I don't think that's real. Yeah. That's another one is you'd said Ryan Gosling would be another option for Bond, I guess. But I don't know. I hope they go with a British Bond. They gotta keep that. It's part of the identity.
It's part of the identity. Like, casting an American actor for Bond would be weird. I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah. It'd be kind of making a statement almost because it's, you know.
Also, you'd offend the British, so they'd boycott it. It'd be a mess.
I remember it was like Roger Moore was promoting the idea of like Cuba Gooding Jr. being Bond.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. No. And I'm like, no, not because
Roger
he's black,
Moore.
Because I think Idris Elba would have been a good Bond, you know, but not because he's black, but just because he's Cuba Gooding Jr. Like, I just can't see him. But Roger Moore's kind of the cheesier Bond.
I fall in the camp, and like, I saw some actors expressing this kind of thing. Like, if you're going to change, like, his identity, like his race or his gender, you're better off making a new character, making it about a new character, which I am not against. I am not against the idea of, like, a new character getting the 007.
I kind of,
but,
like
I'm
the
not, like,
idea
a hardcore fan.
I also kind of like the
either,
idea,
so.
the old theory, though, that James Bond isn't even actually, like, a real person. That, like,
Yeah,
007
like that.
and James Bond are both, like, handles.
I don't like that.
I like that,
I
too.
think that James Bond is a defined person. The 007 handle can switch between, like, different people, but, like, yeah.
But that's how you can have, like, all these
take.
different James Bonds from different eras and stuff that don't
Right. Oh, yeah.
necessarily fit.
People trying to take 30 years of movies and trying to, like, make them fit into some timeline. Yeah.
I don't even mean, like, trying to fit into a timeline, but just, like, the idea of the books were very Cold War.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And, like, you get, like, a Daniel Craig film. It's very,
Cold War.
so it's kind of like, I like the idea of a loose, like not trying to fit it tightly into a timeline, but the idea of like this loose thing where like it's just an identity. It's just a burner name or something that's used.
Right. Okay. That's actually, like, the way you explained it right now, like, that is actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, and then it could just be kind of like anybody brought up at any different time or something, you know? Like maybe there was a James Bond, and then after he died or something, they just carried that on. I don't know.
But again, we have no details about this, so there's not much else to say here.
Our next news story is that Jon Bernthal is going to be reprising as Punisher in Spider-Man Brand New Day. So yeah, this is exciting news. We talked about this before the podcast. One of the things that I'm a little disappointed in, it's just because I drank my own Kool-Aid, I guess, is that you and I talked about the idea of, oh, what if like they always pair him up with another Marvel character? And I'm like, but what if they paired him up with Shang-Chi? Because it's Dustin Daniel Cretton that's doing this movie, and he did Shang-Chi. I'm like, that would be an interesting pairing because it's always been like a mentor character for Spider-Man, but Spider-Man's more experienced in all this stuff than Shang-Chi is. So then he'd be like going from having mentor characters to like being a mentor character to somebody else. And I really liked the idea of that. And then Punisher is obviously not going to be either. He's not going to be a mentor or a mentee, you know?
Oh, geez, no. So he is definitely in this movie for other reasons.
Become a mentor to Peter Parker.
Yes.
That would be a pretty scary Peter Parker.
Peter's going to learn the importance of making sure he absolutely, positively kills all his villains.
Yeah.
No.
That would be the Peacemaker-approved version of Spider-Man. So, Punisher in Brand New Day. So, that's kind of crazy.
That is pretty crazy because, like, yeah, I was not expecting to see the Punisher in an MCU movie. Like, at all. I just thought, like, this character is too dark. He fits into the world created by the Netflix series that they've just revived on Disney Plus, you know.
Which, by the way, he's going to have a special in, too. Like a new Punisher special is being made.
Yeah, he's going to, Jon Bernthal's Punisher is having a renaissance at Marvel now. Like, apparently. Yeah, my thing was like, yeah, he fits into like this darker corner of the Marvel universe, but they're not going to put him in like a big family, like MCU film. And like, no, apparently they are, which is cool. It's cool.
He's
because,
actually
like,
playing the Punisher. Like, you have to heighten the word pun. He's actually the villain of the movie. He's just a villain that makes puns. Yeah, it is crazy. They're mixing that and they're putting him in. But I like that.
I like that too.
I don't think they should do another Punisher series, for example. Like, I think they've done it. I think it degraded when they did the next season of it in quality. I think that's done. You don't really have to go back to that well, but he's a cool character. And so the best way to do that is just to stick him in other things, you know?
Yeah, stick him in other things. Also, I do want to see how the Punisher and Spider-Man would interact. Yeah, what that would be like.
Peter Parker, like, struggling so hard not to succumb to his urge to kill the Green Goblin in the last movie, and then in this one, he's paired up with a guy who's just killing shit left and right.
He's just killing shit. He goes, you know, you definitely should have killed that guy for killing your aunt. You definitely should have let him live.
Pretty crazy. Our next news story is that Russell Crowe is joining the cast of the Henry Cavill starring Highlander remake that's coming from John Wick's Chad Stahelski.
See, this is interesting because, like, we were going over the news stories, and I'd known about this movie. I've known, like, this was in development at Amazon with Henry Cavill for a while. Apparently it's coming out, and I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. We're gonna get, like, a Henry Cavill Highlander remake. I did not know Chad Stahelski was directing it until we went over the news stories for this podcast. And, like, so now, like, my hype for it has, like, just gone up. Because that means, like, the action is going to be insane.
Yes. Very much so. And, you know what's the other thing is that we think about John Wick and we think, like, oh, that guy's gonna be doing Highlander. That's so cool. That means the action's gonna be good. But John Wick also did a lot with, like, lore. And, like, Highlander's very lore-dependent. So
yeah, it's, like, very lore-heavy, too. So it's got that base covered as well.
Yeah. Russell Crowe joining is interesting. I don't think he's going to be their version of the Kurgan from the first Highlander movie. I think he's much more likely to be Ramirez, which was Sean Connery's character.
Yes, that's definitely who Russell Crowe is.
Or it could be like his 100%. Dad or something, like in the flashbacks, you know?
Oh yeah, Russell Crowe.
Highlander movies always have flashbacks.
Yeah, Russell Crowe's only in there for like a few minutes in that flashback.
Could be, I mean.
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
What was his total screen time in like the last Thor movie? That was probably like, what, about 10 minutes?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. But I really really think it's likely he's going to be playing like a Ramirez type character.
Yeah, I think that's most likely. I'm excited for this. I think Highlander, it was a good movie. It's got like an interesting lore to it. I've seen like episodes of the TV series.
I loved the TV show so much. I was such a huge fan of the TV show. So yeah, I'm all in on anything Highlander. As long as they don't try to go like sci-fi like they did with the second one.
Like, oh, they're aliens or something? That was
dumb. As long as they don't do that shit, then it's like I'm all in.
Yeah, exactly.
Our next news story is that Doug Liman, who directed the recent Roadhouse remake, he also did The Bourne Identity and Go, is going to direct Stephen King's The Stand, which has previously had 2 separate miniseries adaptations, neither one seemingly that great. But as far as books go, this is like one of Stephen King's most famous and beloved.
I mean, is there any Stephen King TV miniseries adaptation that has ever, like, you could call great? I mean,
the effects were bad, but the Langoliers,
yeah, I guess that was
the effects were really bad. If they went back and redid the effects,
oh geez, those effects were terrible. Yeah.
I mean, what's his name? Balky from Perfect Strangers.
Yes, it did.
And he was great in it. He was such a good villain.
Yeah, he was so slimy in that. Listen, I have a soft spot for like the original It TV miniseries. I've seen it. I love Tim Curry's Pennywise.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. I just want to say like, oh yeah, that's like an A+ tier adaptation. It's like, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like it lives in your mind as this very iconic and memorable thing. I haven't watched it since like it aired, you know?
Oh,
if I went back and watched it, I'm sure it really doesn't hold up that well.
I don't think I've seen it since the 90s. So
exactly. It was great. Like my memories of it are great.
My memories of it are great. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's one of those things like sometimes when they do like a remaster of a video game, like I've heard people say this like with the Ocarina of Time remake on 3DS or something, where like if you actually went back and played the N64 version, you'd be like, ooh, this looks like way worse. But when you're playing the 3DS one, it looks like what you think that game looked like. Like you play that game and you're like, oh, they didn't really update the graphics that much. It pretty much looks the same. And it's like, no, it looks significantly better. But your memory of it is what the 3DS version looks like. I think that might be the same thing with the It miniseries, that like our memories of it are like, oh, this is impeccable horror miniseries. And then if we rewatched it, we'd be like, oh.
Like, oh, this is rough.
Yeah.
So like, hey, I like Doug Liman. This could be like really great.
Yeah. It's interesting that they're doing it as a movie. They never tried it as a movie before. The book is like over 1,000 pages long.
That's why they only attempted to adapt in like longer formats, like a TV miniseries.
Yeah.
You know, cause like, yeah, can you do The Stand in like, I'm imagining 3 hours? Can you do it as a 3-hour film?
I don't know. I mean, you can do anything. Can you do it well as a 3-hour? That's
right. Like, I guess the question was, would it work?
Yeah. It's a hard thing to, I mean, Doug Liman's a good director, so it's, you know, it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, you know, who knows? Maybe we're just hearing about this, so maybe it's going to be like broken up into parts or something. Maybe it's going to be a trilogy.
Yeah, maybe it's going to be, because like Hollywood loves to do that, right? Like Hollywood like needlessly like broke up The Hobbit into 3 movies. And you didn't that was so unnecessary to do because The Hobbit's not that huge of a book. But so who knows? Yeah, maybe this will be like 3 movies.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you could probably fit, I mean, I don't know the page counts, but you could probably fit at least 3 Hobbit movies in one of the Lord of the Rings books. Or like at least 3 Hobbit books in one Lord of the Rings book. And yet they did 3 Lord of the Rings movies, 1 for each book, and then 3 for The Hobbit, which is just 1 book.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty crazy. Our next news story is that Heart of Darkness, which is a book that came out in 1899, making it almost as old as Nintendo, and a book considered to be impossible to adapt. It's one of those ones like Slaughterhouse-Five that's like just considered unadaptable. But a lot of things are based on it. Like a lot of characters, a lot of like movies. You'll hear that referenced a lot. People going like, oh yeah, this character, I'm kind of basing him on like Heart of Darkness and stuff like that. But now it's being adapted as an animated movie, that's one way to get around the unadaptable aspect, is just to go like, well, animation allows us to pretty much do anything. We can just be surreal and weird and kind of explore things from like weird directions that you can't really do normally in a movie. But not only is it going to be an animated movie, but it's an animated movie that's using sand and glass. So not CG sand and glass, like they're actually photographing sand and glass for the movie. So that's pretty crazy. They've done this for short films before, this like technique, this style, but they've never done it for a feature-length film. It's very labor-intensive. And Michael Sheen and Bill Nighy are going to do voices in it. So
yeah,
the science
sounds interesting.
Doing it.
Yeah, Bill Nighy. Yeah, I was saying, isn't it like Bill Nighy? Isn't that like how his name's pronounced?
I think they're both just pronounced Bill Nighy.
Oh, okay.
Just in then different spellings.
Different spelling.
Name, but like same pronunciation.
Yeah, like, not the science guy, the dad from Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was in To Live, the remake of Akira.
Yes. He was also in Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
Was he?
Yeah.
He was also in the last Harry Potter movies, so like the second to last Harry Potter movie, I guess. So he's been in stuff. He was in Pirates of the Caribbean, the second Pirates of the Caribbean movie, the second and third as Davy Jones. Bill Nighy, accomplished actor. Michael Sheen, great actor as well. He was in Masters of Sex. He's been in a bunch of other stuff. He's a good British actor.
Gosh, I was wrong about Detective Pikachu. That must have been somebody else.
I guess not Detective Pikachu then. That was the one that got away for him. That was his white whale.
No, he was. I don't know why I couldn't find it on his IMDb, but yeah.
And he slayed that white whale. That was...
Yeah. He was. I was
the one
correct.
that almost got away. The story's changing every minute here.
He's the main villain. He body swaps into a Mewtwo. So that's interesting to me.
And then our last news story before we get into the 4 trailers we have this week is Very Young Frankenstein. So if you're thinking Young Frankenstein, that old Mel Brooks movie, yes, exactly.
You would be exactly correct.
Yes.
And you would win nothing.
So not only is Mel Brooks going back to the well for Spaceballs, but he's also going back to the well for Young Frankenstein. This time he's teaming up with the What We Do in the Shadows producing crew, and they're going to be running the show, and I guess he's just attaching his name to it, I think.
You know what? Like, he's cashing out before he checks out. Yeah. at this point.
Yeah, he's
right?
in his late 90s, yeah.
Yeah, so he's just cashing out. So he's just, like, licensing all of his stuff.
Yeah, at least it's to good people, you know?
Yeah, it's good people. Yeah, like, I started reading, I was like, Very Young Frankenstein. That sounds cheesy, but I thought it's the What We Do in the Shadows team, and I got, like, way more positive on it. Cause I was like, okay.
Yeah, take out all the Mel Brooks out of the equation and just think like, okay, they're gonna make a TV series that's a comedy that's about Frankenstein. What showrunner should we get for that show?
Yeah.
And you think,
exactly.
oh, well, what about that What We Do in the Shadows show? That was a kind of similar idea.
That was like a horror. That was a horror comedy TV show, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah, and What We Do in the Shadows was like absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I'm on board for
the series more so than the movie, I'd say. I love the movie too, but the series was better.
Yeah, the series was better. But I think also that was also a function of them being able to expand upon the ideas, much more upon the ideas in the film.
I was going to say that was mostly because of Matt Berry.
Also Matt Berry, yeah. But yeah, the series had like a lot of room and leeway to greatly expand on the ideas presented in the film and even go like further beyond, which they did very well. It sucks that it's over, but like if this is coming out, if this is like even half as good, I'll be happy.
Yeah, I mean, how you gonna top Gene Wilder though, you know?
Right, yeah, that's the
a
thing.
tough one.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, but who knows? I mean, there's lots of talented younger actors out there. They could get the guy from The Bear. What's his name? He was in Shameless. He looks like Gene Wilder.
He does.
I heard one time that he looks like related to him, but I don't think that's actually true.
No, that sounds like an urban myth. That sounds like people like, oh, this dude looks like a young Gene Wilder. He must be related somehow.
Yeah,
that's like those rumors.
But I don't think it checked out from what I remember.
That's like those rumors, like that kid from the Wonder Years grew up to be Marilyn Manson.
Now we're going to move on to trailers, and we're going to start things off with the Red Band trailer for The Toxic Avenger, which is beautifully gruesome and a lot less like cheesy in its gore than like what I'm used to from Trauma, which makes sense.
I don't know. Like the gore is pretty cheesy and it's pretty comical. It is like very much like
it's comical, but like
gore.
Trauma gore is like you can see the shit they're making the gore out of, you know?
Oh right, yeah.
Trauma gore is like low budget gore. Like
this kind of like looks
great.
like this looks like CG, and this like a lot of shots of the gore. The gore looks like it was done with like CG effects.
It looks effective, you know?
Right.
It looks very violent. They gave a lot more like emotion to like the main character character and his story with trying to take care of his son and then, everything that goes on with that. It makes it like a more interesting than what you'd typically expect from a trauma film. Like there's more going on.
They have Frodo in this film looking like he's mid-transformation into Gollum.
Yeah. Great cast. I mean, there's three really top-notch actors in this.
Yeah, we got Peter Dinklage as Toxie right off the bat. You have Peter Dinklage as our main protagonist. Kevin Bacon is like the main villain in this. And then you have Elijah Wood playing like a secondary villain.
This is just like, we talked about this before when we talked about Toxic Avenger, that it's crazy that they did a Toxic Avenger movie and that they have this kind of cast.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. Like a remake of this really cheesy, made with like a shoebox full of money in like the 80s.
I have to imagine this is because of James Gunn.
Yeah, this is because of James Gunn. Like,
I'm not even kidding. Seriously, like I don't think James Gunn had anything to do with it, like specifically, but I think the fact that James Gunn worked for Troma.
He did like one movie with Troma.
Well, he directed one movie for Troma. When you work for Troma, you do a lot more than just that. He was in Troma, and then he directed one movie, which was Romeo and Juliet, and then he's made this huge career out of himself now. I mean, he's fucking running the DC movies now, the whole division, as well as directing Superman movie.
But then also we gotta remember in the 90s that somehow Lloyd Kaufman got an animated series and a toy line and a Nintendo game created out of this.
And we're getting another game kind of based on that too.
Yeah, we're getting a game based off of the animated series coming from Retroware.
Yeah, that's got Toxie, but it's also got Sergeant Kabuki and other classic Troma characters.
That still blows my mind that exists. It's like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy. I used to watch Troma films with my friends all the time. We used to go to comic conventions and buy Troma movies from Troma. Troma would be at Comic-Con selling Troma films. I don't have it anymore, but I used to have a copy of Romeo and Juliet, on DVD or something.
That's cool.
And I bought it at Comic-Con from the Troma booth. Mm-hmm. And we used to buy a bunch of Troma movies. We'd get them all the time. Back on VHS even, we'd have Surf Nazis Must Die and Redneck Zombies and all these different Troma movies. We used to watch them all the time. And they're just so cheesy and bad. Troma is the epitome of the saying so bad it's good. Troma is the definition of that phrase.
So see, I don't want to call this big budget because this doesn't look like they spent $100 million on it.
It's significantly bigger than what you'd expect from Troma.
Bigger. Yeah. It has bigger stars than what you would expect in a Troma film.
That's the thing with old Troma films. You could see how the corners were cut. It wasn't. Yes. It's one of those kind of things where you could a character would walk and you would see the false front of a store, and you could see it. Nothing was hidden. You could see the mistakes and everything was very clear as day in Troma films. But you just kind of accepted that and went with it. And this looks it's actually competently made.
Yeah, so this has actually been in bit of limbo because this movie has been finished for a while now. It was shown at a film festival, I think 2 years ago by this point, fully, and it was just, they had trouble finding a distributor for this film, and I guess they finally found one, and that's why it's coming out. I think Lionsgate is releasing this.
That's crazy too.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Troma's always self-released. So
yeah. Although Lloyd Kaufman did respond to a fan query about if this movie was coming out. Lloyd Kaufman himself did respond to a fan saying if the movie did not find a distributor, he was going to just release the movie himself for free 1 minute at a time on Twitter.
It's funny. I just hope there's a theater nearby that I can watch.
I've always when I found out Peter Dinklage is starring in a Toxic Avenger remake, I was always super curious about, okay, how's that going to turn out? That sounds nuts. That's a thing that's actually being made?
Yeah, and then you watch the first trailer and see Kevin Bacon or something and you're what the fuck?
Yeah, and it looks crazy, it looks gonzo, it looks like a lot of fun in all the best ways. I'm excited to see this.
I hope this ushers in a whole new wave of Troma. I hope that they bring back USA Up All Night.
Yeah, bring back USA Up All Night. Bring
so
back
we have a place to watch all the Troma. Yeah, bring back all that shit. Yeah, seriously. Give us a new wave of that,
Class of Nukem High.
Yeah, God, I loved Class of Nukem High and Surf Nazis Must Die.
Yeah.
I watched Blood-Sucking Freaks. Did you ever see that? That wasn't made by Troma, but it was distributed by Troma.
Oh,
And after I watched that with a friend, we walked out of my house after we watched it and like walked down to like Circle K to get like some snacks or something. And we had this weird phenomenon where there's like so much nudity in that movie that like it was weird seeing people clothed just around on the street. You'd be walking around down the street and stuff and it was like, people are wearing clothes. That's weird. Because we just finished watching Bloodsucking Freaks. And the other thing I remember about Bloodsucking Freaks was that somebody called 911 and they got a recorded message that said 911 was closed because it was too late or something. I thought that was hilarious.
That is hilarious.
But yeah, so Toxic Avenger looks great. Very violent, very, very violent trailer. Fun to check out. It looks really funny. I gotta find a way to watch this. And then our next trailer is for a game. It's another Chinese game. You know, the Chinese game market's starting to boom. And this one is Blood Message.
This one, surprisingly enough, is not a free-to-play online multiplayer game or anything like that.
No, like this is more like
usual suspects like to do. Yeah.
The Wukong like broke records. That was like a huge deal. And this is kind of like along those lines. This is like a true AAA like
single player story based game.
Yeah. And it's very much like a Chinese Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah. Which I like that.
It's stunning.
Chinese history is like endlessly fascinating and interesting. Anything like about Chinese history is going to be cool. Yeah, and the graphics look mind-blowing.
This might be the new showpiece for ray tracing.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought maybe that would be the new GTA because it was doing so many there's like one shot in the new GTA trailer, the newest one, where you see like 6 different reflections in a single shot where they're like really accurate reflections. And it's like pretty crazy. Like you never see that in video games, like that kind of detail in ray tracing. And it was like, oh wow, that's crazy. But there's stuff in the lighting. It's not so much reflections in this, but it's like in the lighting and stuff where characters are passing through and the lighting's like perfect, accurate, and everything feels like it's, if you don't have ray tracing for your lighting in a game or something, it often looks like characters are kind of floating over their environments, like they're not actually stepping into them, you know what I mean? And in this, it's like, that's not the case at all. Like everything just feels inhabited and real. This could trick people to thinking this is just like a movie. It's like of that detail level.
Right. Oh yeah. You sent it to me on Discord and I watched it. I was like, wow, this is impressive stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's very interesting. It's cool to see the Chinese market kind of becoming this new frontier, you know? So hopefully it's more stuff like this and less free to play bullshit.
Yeah, less the gacha games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate gacha and free to play so much. So yeah, hopefully it's less
stuff like NetEase usually puts out.
Yeah. I think NetEase is doing the game though.
Yeah, this is a NetEase game, like apparently. So it's interesting that they are like branching out and doing new things.
Yeah. I mean, they can, you know, they got the budgets and so it makes sense. Cool to see. Next, we got a trailer for Weapons. We had a like kind of teaser trailer or like a trailer for it before. But we had
the teaser, then we had a more fleshed out trailer, and this is like another even more fleshed out trailer. Before we get into it, because I had a question I wanted to ask you about this up front that I've had in my head ever since like I watched this trailer myself, and it's, do you regret watching this trailer?
No, because I don't know. Maybe I will have once I watch the movie, but I still feel like I don't really know what the fuck's going on.
Right. I watched this, like, I immediately had the tinge of regret because I still don't know what's going on, but I also feel like, oh, this kind of revealed too much. This is definitely supernatural, where beforehand it was ambiguous as to like, oh, you know, what's going on here? Is this supernatural? Is this something else happening? And now it's like very obviously, okay, I guess like people are being, I hate to use the term, but I can't think of like any other way to describe it, like zombified in a way. They're just being turned into grotesque, mindless automatons, it looks like.
It still might not be supernatural. Like, it could very much be the case where there's like a widespread delusion or something. It would be interesting.
These people aren't just like deluded, they're physically fucked up. You know,
well, like, I mean, but we're seeing it from their perspective, is what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, this could be a town where like a gas leak's happening or something, you know what I mean? And like, it's presented to us as this supernatural event or something, but it actually isn't. It could be that.
Right. Just like my feeling was like, yeah, this doesn't give away the whole thing, but like, it gives away more. Like, there's more than like the last trailer, and it's kind of, do you regret that we're peeling away the layers of mystery gradually?
It's hard to say, because you think of like the Zach Kriegler films, the ones that he's been involved involved with, not just, he only directed Barbarian besides this, but the other ones he's been involved with, like Companion, for example. Barbarian, I had no idea what the fuck that was, but I don't think I even watched the trailers for Barbarian. I think I may have seen one of them, but
yeah,
I
saw one that like made it, the trailer that was edited like a romantic comedy.
Yeah, with Justin Long's character, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that one. I don't think I like seen.
I didn't see that trailer until after I'd seen the movie.
Right.
But I'd seen other, like, I think I might have seen a different trailer, like a teaser for it or something. But I just had no idea. So I watched the movie and went in completely blind. Companion, on the other hand, the first trailer kind of gave us a little bit of an idea of what was going on. And then the second trailer was like, oh, okay, yeah, we kind of knew what it was from the second trailer. It didn't really hurt the movie for me. It might have ruined a surprise, but I think the movie still stood on its own.
Right.
With this,
also,
though,
like the movie,
I still don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah. And with Companion, the movie kind of like leads with the fact that she's a robot. There's no surprise about that.
But this one, I still don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, same.
It's like there's more questions, you know? They gave me more questions, but they didn't really give me more answers. So I'm still kind of like confused about what's going on. The question is, when we actually watch the movie, are we going to go like, oh, okay, yeah, they put too much in this, and there really isn't that much more? Or are we going to go to it and go like, yeah, it still didn't tell me anything. Like, we're not going to know until we see the movie.
Yeah, we're not going to, exactly. We're not going to have an answer to that till we watch the movie.
Yeah.
I'm still like super hyped for this. I don't like have anything new to say about it since the last trailer. That was just like the most interesting angle I could come up with, because yes, it still looks crazy. It still looks like it's going to be very awesome, very insane in the same way Barbarian was. I'm still looking forward to it. Nothing has changed, in my opinion, since the last trailer. So, like, I don't really have much new to say about this.
I gotta say, it's not really new. Like, we had this in the last trailer too, but man, they're really making me feel for Julia Garner's character.
Oh, yes.
And the kind of situation she's in, and like, you can just, it was in the first trailer, but it's really played here where you can just see she is public enemy number one in this town now. Everybody hates her. Everybody suspects her. And that kind of paranoia is like really interesting.
Because she's in this position where like it's only the kids who attended her class are the ones who are missing.
Yeah.
It's not like all the kids in town are missing. It's just like those kids. And so that paints a big target on her right away.
Yeah. So it's like they really played into that in this trailer. I mean, all that stuff was in the last trailer, but they played into it in like the storytelling within the trailer. In this new trailer, they really played into that, like showing her perspective on how fucking scary it is for her. It's like a horror film just to be suspected like that. Just imagine being like an object of suspicion in a town, you know, like that. That's horrifying. And so it's crazy. Like that's, I think, the thing that stood out to me the most in this trailer was that. Speaking of Julia Garner.
Yeah, she's in the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
She's the Silver Surfer.
And we got to hear her talk, and they added like a steely kind of effect to her voice that was interesting. It's kind of funny because people were saying that, I remember when the last trailer, or the first trailer came out, people were a little upset that the Thing didn't sound like gravelly when he talked and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And then,
like
and now we have,
to his voice.
And now we have the Silver Surfer talking, and there is like this kind of metallic tone to her voice.
Yeah. Which
so they kind of did do it with the Silver Surfer, but not with the Thing. So that's kind of interesting, just because I heard that being brought up by people when the first trailer came out about the Thing. And then
the Thing voice doesn't
kind of did do it with Silver Surfer.
Yeah, the Thing's voice doesn't like even bother me like that much. Like,
yeah, I think it would get annoying actually if it as like a lead in the movie.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where it's like it sounds all cool and stuff, and then
rough, gravelly.
After 2 hours of that, you'd be like, oh, come on, man.
I like the whole this trailer. I like the whole running gag they had in this trailer with like the
clobbering
Thing.
Time. Yeah,
with his catchphase. Like apparently that's a thing he says in like the cartoons that they made in this universe of the Fantastic Four. And like,
I like that there's a cartoon made of.
Yeah, there's a cartoon. Yeah, he says, "Oh, that's," and apparently he's embarrassed by it. So like he doesn't want to like say the line. We have like a fan waving him down on the street, asking him to say the line, and he's like, "I only say that in the cartoon."
He's like, "That's not really a thing."
And then like at the end of the trailer, you get that shot of Johnny and the Thing, you know, like
with the beard, with the rock beard.
With the rock beard, yeah. Thing has a rock beard.
Is that a thing in the comics? I have to imagine that's a thing in the comics.
Yeah, I do believe there's been comics with an older Thing where he has a rock beard.
That That just seems like an Easter egg, like, reference to, you know, something that happened in the comics that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
It just screams of that. Like, as somebody who hasn't really, I don't think I've ever read a Fantastic Four comic. I've read Marvel comics, but I haven't read a Fantastic Four comic.
I read, like, a handful of Fantastic Four comics when I was a kid getting into comics. They were never, like, the thing I gravitated to. Like,
yeah, I was X-Men for me, you know?
Yeah, it was, like, for me, like, yeah, it was, like, X-Men because of the cartoon, then it was, like, it was Spider-Man. Spider-Man was the first thing I gravitated towards.
Yeah, I think it was X-Men for me, and then the other comics I was reading were mostly, I was reading Batman and X-Men. I mean, it's real basic bitch stuff, but that's what I was reading.
Also, like, Image Comics, because, like, Image Comics had just happened to launch at the same time I started
right around
discovering comics. I was, like, 11, or no, like, Image was 91. I was, like, 10 when those comics came out. So, like, I was into Spawn and, like, all that stuff that seemed, like, crazy and edgy at the time.
I have a copy of Spawn number 7, I think, and I thought, like, man, it's gonna be worth so much money. I didn't realize that they printed comic books like fucking, like AOL discs in the 90s.
Yeah, I thought that a lot too. I bought like, a lot of comics thinking, oh, these are going to be worth money because like Wizard Magazine made me believe comics were worth money, and they were. You just had to buy them in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s for them to be worth anything. And the comics from the 90s and on aren't really worth much.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm like, I think the only ones that have some value are kind of more like the gimmick ones.
Yes.
You know, I have one, I think it's from Malibu Comics. Do you remember that? When there was like another brand besides Image that tried to take off around the same time. And I think it was called like Malibu Comics, and they had a comic book that had a hole through the entire comic book.
I remember that.
Yeah, I have that. I don't think I even read it. I just was like, ooh, this is interesting. Maybe it'll be worth something, and I'll buy it.
But anyway, like, I like that shot at the end of the trailer with Johnny and Thing, where, like, Johnny's just like, say it, and Thing's like, no. He's like, say it.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing that they did in this trailer. Like, each trailer kind of had its own thing that added to our perception of the film. And I think what they did with this film more than anything was really play on the chemistry of the characters.
Yes.
Especially Johnny and Thing.
Yeah, especially, like, and their relationship.
Yeah.
Which is, like, very, very crucial, you know, to the dynamic. Because, like, Johnny and Thing, they have like, a brotherly relationship where, like, you know, Johnny's relationship to Reed is more like, I want to say fatherly, but, like, Reed is definitely, like, it's more serious.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see kind of, I think in all of the trailers combined, everything we have seen from the movie so far, I think Johnny has, like, about 10 times as much dialogue as Reed Richards does.
Yes.
We just haven't seen much from Reed Richards in the trailers, you know? Like, there's just been very little of him actually communicating or doing anything, you know? So I'm still we kind of just have no idea of how he's portraying that character yet versus, like, the others.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I think we have a real clear idea of how Thing is being portrayed, how Johnny's being portrayed, how Sue's being portrayed, but we really don't know that much about how Reed's being portrayed yet. Like, they've kind of kept that close to their chest.
Oh, exactly. Oh, absolutely.
But it's interesting how they really kind of focused on the kind of chemistry and the humor between the characters and stuff in this trailer. I think the last two are really focused on kind of like the family aspect of it, you know? And this trailer's been much more on like kind of the quippiness of the characters and stuff and how they interact with each other. So it's the final trailer. It's coming soon.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But that is it for our trailers. And that means it's it for our On Beat segment. And now we're going to move on to our final segment, full spoilers. This week on Full Spoilers, we are staying on the David Leitch bandwagon. The David Leitch train is going 80 miles an hour down the tracks, and we're jumping right into Fall Guy after how much we enjoyed Bullet Train to, you know, stick with the on the tracks pun I was going for. But this time it's the Fall Guy. So I'd seen this before. I rewatched it.
This is based off of a 1980s television series starring Lee Majors.
Yeah. Also known as Bruce Campbell's dad in Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Yes. Yeah, so this is basically another in the long line of like Hollywood film remakes of classic television series.
Lee Majors is in this movie too.
Yeah. If you stay for the post-credits scene, like Lee Majors and his co-star from the original Fall Guys TV series, his female co-star, like they both show up at the end.
Yeah.
Which is pretty fun.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
But yeah, this is like a really fun, breezy lighthearted crime caper film. Ryan Gosling is
Ryan got stacked in this movie.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
He's sick of hearing people talk about how Brad Pitt had the ultimate body in Fight Club, and so he just said I'm gonna have the ultimate body now.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, David Leitch, who directed this movie and directed Bullet Train, we mentioned before, used to be Brad Pitt's stunt double, including on Fight Club.
Oh, yeah. I think you told me that last week.
Yeah.
When we were talking about Bullet Train. Yeah, it's interesting. This is like a fun movie. Ryan Gosling is the stunt double for a big movie star, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. Again, Aaron Taylor Johnson was also in Bullet Train. Had a pretty big role in Bullet Train.
I love how just Ryan Gosling's this this unimportant stuntman that the whole movie revolves around and stuff. Yet, he's played by Ryan Gosling, who's probably the most beautiful working actor alive.
Well, there's no rule that says stunt people have to be ugly.
No, but you know what I mean? It's just kind of he has the movie star looks,
Well, what's hilarious is because stunt doubles have to resemble the person they're doubling for. They had to try and make Aaron Taylor Johnson look like Ryan Gosling for this movie.
Yeah, they didn't do it the other way around, which is funny because, Ryan Gosling's playing the stunt double.
Yeah, exactly. So that was funny. I think Aaron Taylor Johnson actually looks weird throughout the entire movie.
Again, Aaron Taylor Johnson also in Bullet Train.
Yeah, and spoilers, he's the villain in this movie. He's the ultimate villain. Well, he's an idiot. So, he accidentally murders
his producer / manager or whatever, Gail, kind of comes up with the plan, but he's...
she's actually the ultimate villain, because she's the one who, hatches the entire plot.
Yeah.
Which is he accidentally kills, his stunt double, not Ryan Gosling. And then, the whole plot revolves around, bringing Ryan Gosling out of retirement, because he retired after an accident at the beginning of the movie, so that he could literally be the fall guy and take the blame for the murder.
Yeah, nice pun.
Yes.
Nice pun there, and the movie plot is a pun.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, action movie hijinks ensue. But again, Bullet Train, it's an action comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's all comedic. Ryan Gosling goes about things in a very comedic fashion. He's always quipping. There's a point where there's this car sequence where he has this dog with him, and so he's sticking the dog on him. Dog's biting people's nuts. There's a lot of prop comedy and stuff where they're just hitting people various props. There's a water bottle people get bashed with.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There's a sequence towards the end where he has a gun, but it's a prop gun. It's full of blanks.
Yeah. When he did the fall, when the guy shot him, it took his gun and shot him with it, and he pretended to die. And and then tried to sneak away, and was the guy's oh, what the fuck?
It's interesting. It's not as wild as Bullet Train was.
No,
Bullet Train is absolutely crazy. This is as out there as the plot is and stuff. This is actually more grounded than Bullet Train was.
Well, this is a love letter to stuntmen. This is what this movie is. And David Leitch used to be a stuntman. Chad Stahelski, who did John Wick, was also a stuntman, and the two of them work together a lot. They're really close friends. And yeah, what's interesting here is there's a meta story to tell, which is that David Leitch successfully ran a campaign to get stunt work added to the Oscars. That's going to happen in 2028 for the 100th annual Oscars show. And that's going to be the first time that stunt performers are
There's a
awarded.
point where a character asks Ryan Gosling, do they give out Oscars for stunt doubles? And he says no.
So this movie was part of that campaign, basically. I listened to a podcast where David Leitch was talking about how he methodically looked into how to get stunts into the Oscars. This was his goal. He wanted to get stunts into the Oscars. He wanted to figure out a way to do it. And he looked at the way that other categories were added to the Oscars. So the award that's being added is for stunt design, and that's because he realized that the Academy likes design awards. They like things that cover new categories under the philosophy of design. And that's the category he pushed for specifically. He did his homework, He didn't just go, oh, they should put stunts in the Oscars, and then call it a day. He actually did his homework and really figured out how to appeal to the Academy and get them to actually do something. And this movie is part of that. This movie is basically a commercial to make stunts part part of the Oscars.
Oh,
and
interesting.
as such, the whole movie is like a love letter to stunts and stuntmen, including
This
there's a
movie is
car
also
roll that happens in this movie that broke a literal world record. Like, they actually broke a record that was originally held by Casino Royale, which Casino Royale did a car flip where it flipped 7 times, and they did 8 for this movie.
That's cool.
So it's a movie about stuntmen where they broke a stunt record.
Yeah, that sounds like awesome. And also, this movie, it's a love movie. It's a love story between Ryan Gosling's character and Emily Blunt's character.
I think that's what really makes it work. I think they have, like, effortless chemistry between the two of them.
They have, the movie has, like, that emotional center, that emotional core. You know, like, Ryan Gosling, he's not just fighting to, like, clear his name. He's fighting for more.
He's such a likable character, and they do such a good job of really portraying, like, just different quirks about him, about his relationship with Emily Blunt's character, Jodie, but also with his friend, Dan, who's, like, a stunt coordinator that he works with, and, like, they have this whole thing where they, like, quote movies to each other and guess, like, what movie they're talking about. And you can tell, you know, like I said, David Leitch used to be a stuntman. He used to work a lot with the John Wick director, Chad Stahelski, who was also a stuntman. Like, you can kind of see that Colt Seavers, Ryan Gosling's character, and Dan Tucker, the other character I'm talking about that he's friends with or whatever, that they're kind of like stand-ins for David Leitch and Chad Stahelski in a sense. Like, you know, and I think that's why some of, like, the little quirks of their characters, the little, like, interesting things, the whole thing about the thumbs up and how, like, Jodie's, like, annoyed by that, and that, you know, like, the kind of macho aspect of that, that's coming from a real place, because the people that made this movie were stunt people. So all that's coming from, like, a legit place, and I think that adds, like, this level of authenticity to it that makes it, like, really charming and makes it really, like, work, especially when you get into the stuff about the relationships, like you said, with Emily Blunt's character, but also with his, like, friendship.
Absolutely.
But even his relationship with the dog, it feels like something real.
Yeah.
It feels like David Leitch probably worked with a stunt dog before that he enjoyed running into in other movies that had, like, took French commands. Like, I'm sure some aspect of that is, like, a real story.
Yeah, it's based off of, like, a real experience. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what a lot of this movie feels like to me. It feels like a lot of anecdotes of, like, real experiences that he's probably had that he's, like, fictionalized and turned into a movie. I think that is a big part of what makes it work. Anytime you have a movie about a topic and the person who's making that movie is deeply entrenched in that topic, it makes it, like, just feel like you're really believable.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Makes the characters feel very genuine. I also like how negative it is about the Hollywood stars, especially Tom Ryder and just his, like, eccentricities, his post-it notes and all the things that, you know.
Yeah, like apparently he has to have his entire place littered with post-it notes because apparently he's so bad at remembering things.
Yeah, I think that's all, like, really cool. Just like the way he'd talk, but when his mic was still live. Again, that sounds like something that's probably from a true experience. Like, I bet David Leitch has an experience where some Hollywood actor would do that, would talk even though he was live mic, forgot he was live mic, and was probably talking shit about people on the crew.
Yeah, I really would like to know, like, which, like, Hollywood stars, like, he doubled for, you know, like, that's based on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's, like I said, he doubled for Brad Pitt, but I'm sure doesn't come from that because he's got a good relationship with Brad Pitt because Brad Pitt
started. Yeah, exactly. He directed Brad Pitt in Bullet Train. So I think, like, if he thought Brad Pitt was, like, a giant douchebag, I don't think he would have, like, cast him in his movie.
But you can tell there's a lot in this movie that comes from experience, that comes from his own personal experiences. And I think that's what makes it, like, a fun watch. And it also, like, you know, it's true. Like, stuntmen don't get the appreciation they deserve. And this movie is a giant love letter. Like, the credits sequence, the entire credits, you're seeing it's like a Jackie Chan movie. When you watch a Jackie Chan movie and the end of the movie, it shows all the stunts and, like, what went wrong and different things that were happening. And, you know, that's basically what this movie does during the credits. You know, it's all, like, from beginning to end, this movie is, like I said, it's a love letter to stuntmen.
Yeah, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I think for me, Bullet Train was the better movie, but, like,
I agree.
Still, like, but this is still, like, a really fun movie. Like, I would recommend this to anybody if you're just, like, looking for something. This is, like, very much a lighthearted action comedy romance. If you're looking for something that's, you know,
this isn't John Wick, yeah,
this isn't John Wick. This isn't, like, heavy like John Wick is. Yeah, exactly. If you're just, like, looking for something lighthearted, I think this is an easy recommendation for me.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. I really enjoyed it. And it's a movie, like I said, it's a movie with a purpose. Like, this whole movie is part of a campaign to get stunts added to the Oscars, which is long overdue. And so I dig that. I dig that it's like, that it actually has this kind of purpose and point to it.
Oh, absolutely.
What did you think of the Jason Momoa bit?
Oh, I love that. The fact that, like, yeah, because Jason Momoa's reference, like, Tom Ryder has Jason Momoa's name, like, on a post-it note, and it's like he's asking how it's pronounced. It's like Momoa or Momoa, you know, like, that's what the post-it note reads. And so, like, there's that reference. And then at the end of the movie, we get Jason Momoa, like, actual Jason, which is, it's a hilarious, like, payoff to, like, what is, like, an insignificant, like, minor bit, like, halfway through the film.
He's also in the last line of dialogue in the post-credits scene.
Yeah.
Where the one assistant says, "Give me Jason Momoa's number,"
Yeah, because obviously Tom Ryan is not going to be in this movie anymore, so...
Yeah.
The fact that
he's dead?
I thought they just, like, arrested... Yeah, he is dead, actually, because he ran into...
he took a phone call in an explosive field where it had signs warning not to use any electronic devices.
So they just, like, replaced him with Jason Momoa, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
We get, like, a full-on trailer for, like, this fictitious science fiction film that they've been making for the entirety of the film, which is, again, it's hilarious, this trailer. I just love it.
One other stunt I wanted to point out is the fall, the literal fall that, like, you know, if you look at the logo for the Fall Guy and the A, there's a guy falling, you know, and falling stunts used to be like a big thing and they don't really do them anymore. Like nowadays when they film somebody falling, they harness them with a wire and it decelerates as they fall. And that's how they do it. And what they used to do, which was very dangerous and they don't really do anymore, is like literally just free falls onto a giant air cushion. And that's something that like just isn't really done in the industry anymore. But they did it for this movie. Like they did like a really big free fall, 150-foot drop from a helicopter. And they got a guy named Troy Lindsey Brown to do it. And he's the son of a stuntman named Bob Brown, who was famous for that particular stunt. So Bob Brown is the stuntman that always did those big free falls, and his son ended up doing the big like titular moment of the movie when he jumps from the helicopter. You know, it was like Bob Brown's son, Troy Lindsey Brown. So I just think that's kind of an interesting thing again, and it goes with the whole motif of this being just a love letter to stuntmen.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Again, this is based off of a TV series from the 80s. I think David Leitch has said he enjoyed the series. I think he said like it inspired him to get into like doing stunts, which is cool.
He's at that like right age. Like he's a little bit older than us, I think, like maybe like, 8-10 years older than us, something like that. Where like I remember as a kid being obsessed with like Chips, like, oh, Chips is coming on, you know? And like certain like shows that I remember, like I don't remember the show. I just remember the excitement that it was coming on when I was a kid or something, you know? And it's kind of like of that era too, you know? Like if you were a kid growing up in that era and the Fall Guy came on, that was the show you watched. And Lee Majors was like your hero. And that's...
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It makes sense.
It's like, yeah.
What I'm saying is that after this podcast, I'm going to make a Chips movie.
Oh, okay. Well, that should be good.
You're going to play Eric Estrada.
Oh, nice. Thank you. That's
not his character.
I'm going to play Eric Estrada. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's the Fall Guy. Really fun watch. Glad you enjoyed it. Next week, we are going to be watching something on Hulu. We're going to be watching an animated anthology movie on Hulu called Predator, Killer of Killers. This is a spin-off, basically, of the Predator universe by Dan Trachtenberg, who did Prey, and he's doing the new Predator Badlands movie, and he produced this spin-off series as well, or not series, but
Dan
movie.
Trachtenberg is apparently the Predator guy now.
Yeah, he's kind of made himself the Predator guy after the success of Prey.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing next week, so stay tuned for that. And until then, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can also check both of those same handles on Blue Sky. We were there as well. You can go to our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to our website and open up a container story for any of our podcast episodes, scroll down to the bottom paragraph, you'll find all the relevant links to our RSS feed, our SoundCloud page, everything's there. You can do that. You can also, while you're there, find links to our YouTube channel where you can find the entire backlog of our podcast, as well as additional content we've done over the years. You can also subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast player of choice, like an Apple Podcast or Pocket Cast. So thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. visit our website at thetotaliscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.